Hello guys, welcome to today's tutorial on the Codang YouTube channel. Today we are going to be building a search application using the Wikipedia API. So a quick demo of what we are going to build. Right in front of us we have an input field and a search button. So let me type in a set of words. Let me type in Ada Lovelace, and then I click on search button. Then you see we have a list of results coming straight from Wikipedia. That is the Wikipedia API. We have the first results showing Ada Lovelace. We have Charles Babbage. We have other programming language, and then Ada Lovelace Award, Linda Lovelace, and the likes. So if I scroll down, you notice we have some extra buttons here, that is pagination. So what we just have here is a list of 10 results, and when I click on the second set of results, it continues to show the other results as the case may be. So up until the 10th result, because I limited the parameter to just 100 set of data to be loaded per search. So going back to the first results, let's click on the Ada Lovelace, and then as you can see we have the results. It takes us right to the results on Wikipedia. So without wasting much time, let's get right into it. So the first thing I'll need to do is to generate an Angular project. So to do that, I'm going to head to my file explorer and then open my command terminal. So I can just type cmd up above, and then it's going to bring out the terminal. So to create a new Angular project, I believe a lot of us are familiar with that. So what you do normally is to type in ng new and then the name of the project. For my own project, I called it ngwiki because we are working with the Wikipedia API. If I should press enter, it's going to try to generate a new project for us. I think it's going to ask us two questions basically. So you get two prompts. The first one is you want to add routing to this project, but for the sake of this project we will not be using routing. And the next thing is going to ask us is the styling we want, maybe css or scss and the likes. So I chose css for this project. So those are the two choices you can make. You can disable routing and then choose css, but since I already have the project generated, I don't need to do that again. So what I can just do is to open the project right in Visual Studio Code. To do that, let me navigate to the roots of the project, and then once again open the terminal, open the project on Visual Studio Code. Now this is a new Angular project. We do not need to generate any new components. What we just need to do is to work with what we have already, because in every new Angular project you are going to get two basic components. Actually, you get the app component.html as well as the app component.ts file. So those are the two files we're going to work with. So first thing I'm going to do is to clear off the boiler templates given to us in the app components HTML page. So I'm going to copy everything there, press the backspace, and then click save the project, and then head straight to the terminal. And then let's start off the server. Actually, to start off the server, we can just run ng serve. Now the project is compiling. I want to quickly show us a list of outline of what we are going to do in this project. So as you can see here, the first thing we did was to show a project overview of what we want to build, and then the next thing we're going to do is to integrate bootstrap and then design the page. So let's quickly do those two. So we are going to be making use of bootstrap 5. So to get the bootstrap 5 CDN, I'm going to head over to the documentation at bootstrap 5. The first results we get will be from bootstrap 5. So I can just click on the introduction and then get in. Oh, okay, we don't need to click on get started. We can just grab the css link and then head straight back to our project. In the index.html file, in the head section, we can just paste the link. With that, we have bootstrap 5 integrated into the project, and we can get access to the bootstrap styles. So back in the app component.html, I'm going to grab some boilerplate code. So the first one is the HTML. So I'm going to grab this HTML here and then copy, paste it in the app component.html file. So basically what we have here is just mostly bootstrap 5 classes. So we have an input field, we have a form. As we can see in the example I showed at the beginning of the tutorial, those are the two things we have showing by default when the project is loaded. That is the initial state of the project. Then we now have the search results, which is in this particular div, contained in this div. This search results class contains every result we display when we search using the Wikipedia API. But for now, everything will be displayed on the page because we haven't made it functional as of yet. So we also have the CSS part. So I'm gonna grab the CSS, paste it in the app component.css, and we just did some basic things here. Set the background color, add margins to the search form classes and the few other classes we have here. And then also for the a tag, I remove the text decoration because by default when we have an a tag, you get an underline. So I remove that decoration by setting the text decoration to none. So I'm gonna save both files and then check our terminal to see if our app has successfully compiled. So as you can see, it has compiled successfully. So let's open the project on localhost 4200. Yes, as you can see, the design of our page is done successfully. So by the time we integrate the Wikipedia API, we are gonna have pagination as well as multiple search results, which is going to just be 10 per page. So let's check the next thing we need to do from this outline here. Now we need to take a brief overview of what the Wikipedia API is all about. So let me just type in Wikipedia API, and then we get some bunch of search results. So let me click on the first results we get here. One thing you notice is when you get to documentation, you see the media wiki. I think they own the Wikipedia API. So that's why we are seeing media wiki. API we need to work with is the search. So on the right sidebar, you can see you have the search. So the first result we have search for a title or text is what we're going to click on. So it's going to take us to another page. And then what we want to do is to make use of a get request actually to get the results of anything we type into the input field. So when I scroll down in the documentation, this part is pretty much straightforward. Other parts may not be straightforward, but this part is straightforward. So by the time we integrate the API, the result or the response of what we're going to get is going to look similar to this. So I'll drop the link of this API in the description, but let's just take a brief overview of how this is implemented in JavaScript. You can see this is the API we're going to work with, that is english.wikipedia.org/api.php. Then this API requires some parameters, and by default we are going to pass in these 4 parameters, but I'm going to add 1 or 2 more to it. So as you can see, we have an action which is queries, a list which is set as search, and as SR search, that's the search term which would be contained in the input field, and it will display the results accordingly. And then the format, we want it to be in JSON format. So that's all we need to know for now. So quickly, let's just generate a service in Angular. So let me head back to the Angular project and then stop this terminal once more and then type in ng generate service. We can call this service wiki. So it's going to generate a service called wiki, or we might call it Wikipedia, depending on what you want to call it. I think wiki is fine for me. So our service is generated. So once again, I'm going to start the server by running ng serve, and then it's going to load. As you can see, this is our service file. So while the app is compiling, I'm going to check what we need to do next. That's to create a service and implement the Wikipedia API. So to do that, we need to make use of the HTTP client module in Angular for us to be able to integrate a service. So to do that, I'm going to head over to appmodule.ts file, but let me just close some of the files we have here above, and then so quickly let's just bring it in. So let's bring in the HTTP client module. So I'm just going to type in HTTP client module, and this is coming from at angular/common/HTTP. So we're going to inject this into our import array. So now that we have the client module, we can now head back to our wiki service. What we need to do now is to set the base URL for this service. So I can just create a variable called private base URL is equals to. So back to the Wikipedia API documentation, I'm just gonna grab this API URL, head back to our Angular project, and then paste it in. So we also need to import and inject the HTTP client. So quickly let's do that. So I can just type in import http client from at angular slash common slash http. So this is beautiful. Now let's inject this in the constructor. So this is going to be a private class as well because we don't plan on using it outside of this service. So I can just say private http and then type in the http client or paste in the http client as the case may be. Now let's create our service. So we are going to call our service search because we'll be searching for data, right? So I can't spell search properly. So search is going to have a variable called data and it's going to have a type of any, and then inside of this we can just return this dot http, that is an instance of the http client dot, this is going to be a get request get, and then we're going to call the base url, this dot base url, and then we're going to pass in the parameter because this is going to be the body of our request. So the parameter, we're going to have, like I said earlier in the documentation, some set of variables in the parameter. So let's just first say params, and then it's going to be in form of an object. So the first one we're going to have is action, and then we're going to have it as query. I mean, if you look at the documentation, this will be clearer to you. So you should know I'm not typing this just for my brain randomly. So the format is going to be in JSON format. That's the most preferred format. And then the list is going to be search. Then we have the SR search, which is going to take in the data we passed in as a variable in our search function above. We're going to have the origin to prevent cause. So it's going to be in form of a wildcard, which is going to be asterisk. And then lastly, what I want is the number of results I want to display. This can be in thousands, but I don't want this to be over the top. So I'm just going to set the SR limit to just 100 results per query. I think that's fine. So this is all we need to do for us to create the API or to integrate the Wikipedia API. So we can just consume this in our components view. So let's quickly check what we need to do next. So next up, we need to display the data on the component view. So let's do that. So quickly, we're gonna head back to the app component.ts file. So this is where we integrate the view from our search app. So in the app component.ts file, the first thing we need to do is to bring in the wiki service. So I can just do that by creating a constructor first. So constructor, so inside of the constructor I can just have private wiki and then call the wiki service. With the help of IntelliSense, it helps us to inject it and import it while we were injecting it. So the next thing we need to do is to create two variables. So the first variable I want to create is the search term. So I'm gonna create a search term and then I'm gonna pass in, make it a type of any rather. And then the second one is the results. This is going to hold the results we want to display in the component view. So it's going to be a type of any, and we set it as an empty array because our data comes in front of an array. So next thing we need to do is to create the function that helps us to integrate the API in our component. But before we do that, because this is going to be done using a form when we click on the button. So we have a form in our app component page. So on that form, let me just go there and we're going to create a new form instance. So to do that, I'm just going to call the form attributes submit. So the name of the form function is going to be on submit. I think that's pretty much clear. So on submit, and then we're going to also make use of the ng model. The ng model is a directive that helps us to set variable in the component view. So to do that, I'm just going to have a bracket or something usually called banana in a box. So we're gonna have something called ng model, and it's gonna take in a variable called search term. So let me just grab the search term we have here, we created above. So I'm gonna pass it here. So we now have the search term. As you can see, we have error on our page. It's freaking out because we haven't imported the forms module. For this to work, we need to import the forms module. So quickly, let's head back to our app module.cs file. So in the app module.cs file, we can just bring in the forms module. So forms module, yeah, perfect. It has been imported and injected. So let me save that and then head back to our HTML, app component HTML. So the onSubmit is the function we haven't created in our TS file. So quickly, let's do that now. So I'm just gonna say onSubmit and then open a set of curly brace brackets And then what we need to do next is to call our wiki service. So to do that, I'm gonna just make a reference to the wiki variable we created in the constructor. So I can just say this dot wiki dot, we called it search, right? So dot search, and then it takes in a variable. So the variable it takes in is actually the set of words we type into the input box, and we've already gotten that from our ng model. It helps us to bind directly to that using the search term variable. So I can just say this dot search term, it returns an observable, so I can just subscribe to that observable using dot subscribe, and then I can just say response, give it a type of any, and then we call a fat arrow function, and then let's log the response to the console. So I can just say console.log response. We seem to have an error somewhere. So that fixes the error. The rest deserves or needs to have his own parenthesis or bracket, as the case may be. So I think that's perfect. Let me save everything we've created so far and then check our browser to see if we get some results when we type into the input box. So let me open the terminal. Did I say the terminal? Let me open the console rather. So in the console, I believe our app has compiled successfully. Perfect. So I can just type in some words. Let me type in what I typed in at the beginning when I was showing the sample. So let me type in Ada Lovelace and then click on search. Okay, we get some results here. Let me bold in this a bit. So in the query, you can see we have a list of 100 results. Each result has its own unique page ID, its size, snippet, time stamp title, as well as word count. So as you can see, we have 100. We can make this 200, 300, 400, depending on the results coming from the Wikipedia API, but I limited it in my search parameter in the service. Let me show you one more time. You can see I limited it to 100. That's why we have is a list of 100 data on the console. Now let's try to show this on the page. So to do that, I'm going to make reference to the results variable we created above. We didn't spell results properly, so you can just say results. Now what we can do is just say this dot result is equals to response, that is res dot it. The result we get is inside the query, so it's inside the query and then inside the search. So you can say results dot query dot search. The search is the array that it holds the array, so I can just say results dot query dot search. Perfect. So with this, we can now look through this using the ng4 directive in our component HTML file. So let's head straight to our component HTML file. Where do we want this to show? We want this to show in the search result class. So let's loop from there. I'm just gonna have right in the search results class, make use of an asterisk, like so I can just say ng4 is equals to let results of results. So we now have a reference of the results array of objects in this results variable. So now where do we want the results to show? The first one is the title. Let's try to show the result title. So I'm going to have that here. So I can just say results dot title. Let me save. Okay, one more thing we can also do is the results dot, I think we have a snippet. Yeah, result dot snippets. So results dot snippets. So let me save that as well. Then let's check the page to see how it looks like. Now let's search for Ada Lovelace. You can see we have Ada Lovelace and it's showing 100 set of data. Like, we haven't integrated the pagination, as you can see. What we need to do next is, you can see is returning is some set of HTML tags. We don't want that. So to get rid of that, so I'm just gonna get rid of this result or snippets, and instead we're gonna bind the results to an inner HTML. So the inner HTML is equals to results.snippets. So let's save and see if there's any changes, and if we don't have any HTML tags in our result anymore. So once again, search for Ada Lovelace, click on search. As you can see, the HTML tags are gone by binding results to the inner HTML attributes. Perfect. So one thing we need to do again is to integrate the link. As you can see, if I click on this, it is going to navigate to this same component. Like, it shouldn't be this way. So to do that, we need to find a way to get the page ID, because each page has a page ID. This is the way we are going to be able to load each page according to its own unique results, this page ID. So to do that, okay, let me just show you a result of how I did it. I got the result from Stack Overflow actually. So on Stack Overflow, there's a solution to this by making use of the Wikipedia page ID. So when I search for Wikipedia page ID, Stack Overflow, I get these results way back from 2011. So this is what I made use of. So I made use of this second result here. You can make use of any of the results, but I made use of this. So let me upvote that and then bookmark the answer, because we are encouraged to do that in Stack Overflow. So let's find a way to integrate that. Let me just grab it once more and then I'll close this page, edge back to our project. So in the A tag, what I can just do is to paste in the link results, and then in the call ID, I'm gonna get rid of this ID and instead find a way to load our own ID. So I can just type in results.page ID. Okay, that's perfect. So we're gonna do this in the title as well. So I'm just gonna grab everything here, copy, then replace it here. So let's save and then head back to the page and once again search for Ada Lovelace to see if this works. So quickly let's search for Ada Lovelace and then click on search. As you can see, each unique ID shows. Let me close the console, and then if I right click and then open this in a new tab, it is going to show the result for the unique result for Ada Lovelace, just like in the sample. So as you can see, born on 10th December 1815. So let's open the second result, Charles Babbage. As you can see also, Charles Babbage result is also unique, which is awesome. He is born 18th October 1871. So let me just close this too. And then as with that, you can see that our API is fully integrated. So the next thing we need to do is we've been able to create a service, display the data on the component view, and also direct the page results when link is clicked. The last thing we need to do is to add the pagination. So to do that, we're going to make use of an npm library called ngx. Oh no, we're going to make use of what we call ngx pagination. It's actually an awesome library in Angular. So you can see the documentation is straightforward, and then it has a weekly download of 69,000. And I'm just gonna grab this npm install ngx pagination and then stop the server and then paste it in and wait for the pagination npm package to install appropriately. So while that's going on, you can just see how we can integrate this. The first thing we need to do is to import the ngx pagination module. So let me do that now. I hope our code doesn't freak out as usual. So I'm gonna paste the ngx pagination, inject it in a module. Then the next thing we are told to do, okay, is to inject a pipe. Like you can see this paginate pipe, and then we set the items per page, the current page, and the like. So you can go through this documentation when you are free. I've done that already, so I know what I'm to do next. But one thing I just need to do is to ensure the package is installed. Let me restart the server for the last time. So no npm start, ng serve actually. With ng serve, let's head straight back to let me save this to the component or project as the case may be, and then let's start setting up our pagination. So the pagination would have its own set of variables. So in the app components.ts file, we have to create two variables, the total results and the page number. So the first one is total results, so I'm going to say total results, give it a type of any, and then the second one is the page, give it a number 1. So inside our on submit function, that is the function that submits the query we type into the input field, we can just say this dot total results, which we create above, is equals to, then we pass in the rest, the results dot query, that is the array we are getting from the Wikipedia API, dot search, as well as the length. So this is all we need to do here, and then we are good to go. So in the app HTML or app component HTML, you can see I have a comment here saying pagination. This is where we are going to integrate the pagination. So to do that, I will have to pass in the pagination control tag. So let me grab that from the documentation. So this is what I mean, pagination controls. So I'm just going to copy that and then paste it in. So inside the pagination controls, we need to do a few things. So we're gonna leave the page change attribute as it is, but we're gonna, instead of having a p here, this is gonna be a page, because remember in the ts file we created the variable as page, not p. P doesn't make much sense, so I changed to page. And then the next thing we need to do is to pass the pipe in our ng4. So to do that, I'm also going to copy this from our documentation. Yeah, so let me copy this and then head back to the project. So inside of results, I'm just going to paste it in. So we have a pipe of paginate, and then with the paginates, we have items per page, which is we set as 10, and then the current page, change this to page. And one more thing we need to now pass is the total items. So I'm going to say total items, and then we set that to the total results, which we created in the app components ts file. So I'm going to paste that in. So there we go. So we're getting this error because Angular wants us to pass the custom element schema. Let's just do that. So to do that, we have to head to app component dot app module.cs rather. So inside the app module.cs, inside the ng module, so I'm just gonna pass in custom element schema, and then right below the bootstrap, I'll pass in the schemas and then the custom element schema. So maybe that should probably fix the error. So let me save that, head back to the HTML page. Let's check the console. We don't have any error in the console. Let me save again. Let me head back to the view and then refresh the page. One more thing I noticed is the pagination button is showing at the first instance. I don't want that to happen, so quickly I can just set a condition by saying ng if the result dot length only show if the result dot length is greater than 10. So let me save one more time and see if that works. So as you can see, the pagination button has disappeared. So let me just type in Ada Lovelace once more and then click on search. As you can see, we now have the pagination working perfectly. If I click on the second result, it navigates to the second result. Same with the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the like. That's it for this project. I mean, you can just play around with the Wikipedia API. It's an awesome API. The documentation may be here and there sometimes, but for this particular search app, we've been able to make it straightforward and direct. So if you have any questions, please drop it in the comment section, and then also do not forget to like as well as subscribe. I will really appreciate that. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.